What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Welcome to the live show, and thank you for downloading the RJ Young Show podcast. We upload to the podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We live stream on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Tulsa time, and the Saturday podcast usually features an excellent guest. This week's guest is K-State legend and all-American consensus quarterback, one of the great college football players of all time, Michael Bishop. Kind of feel like I've been preparing my whole life for that interview. Can't wait for you guys to hear that, and that's only on the audio podcast, the RJ Young Show podcast. I got a bunch that I want to get into today because the script that I had, throw it the hell out because the Big Ten is playing football again, but there's some other newsy things that we need to get into. But first, I want to tell you, hey, partner with Manscaped, and dude, they sent me some goodies that I'm going to open right here on the channel during the live stream at the end of this. But first, support the RJ Young Show podcast is brought to you by the Manscaped. That's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. And again, Manscaped sent me some goodies. I got the Lawnmower 3.0 down there. We're going to see what that looks like. Going to see what it looks like down there as well. They're calling it the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. It's got a ceramic blade, which is part of the advanced skin-safe technology that is actually pioneered by Manscaped. You can use it in the shower. The battery lasts up to 90 minutes in case you need a little, extra time or you want to do something fancy for somebody in your life. It's got its own LED light for precise trimming where the sun don't shine. And look, we're out of excuses now, guys. Like, the time for must and rust down there is over. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code RJSHOW at manscaped.com. Again, RJSHOW, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. I would sincerely appreciate it if you patronize them. I'm going to give you a review on the Monday show and, might even hear from Laurel on this. But I want to start with an OU bit. I promise we'll get to the Ohio State stuff. But I thought this was interesting, okay? After what we saw from Oklahoma Sooners redshirt freshman Spencer Rattler against Missouri State, tempering expectations for the 2020 season and beyond is going to be exceedingly difficult for Lincoln Riley. Stacking superlatives about the quarterback became so common following just one half football that I asked an NFL scout watching the game, not what did Rattler do well, but what doesn't he do well? And the only things that he had to say were that he's skinny and that you want to see him grow up a little bit, but physically, he's gifted. He's up there with the Kyler Murray when it comes to arm talent and accuracy. And that's what might be the most scary thing or the scariest thing about the Rattler experience, because as Rattler's wrist whips, the ball leads with venom, which is probably what we're going to have to dub the Rattler. If it's not the Rattler, it's going to be venom. It's going to be some Eddie Brock stuff off in here. We are venom. Now, I like it. As great as his velocity is, Rattler's precision striking is what truly separates him as an elite passer. It's not that he completed 14 of 17 for 290 with 4 touchdowns in one half football. It's that 2 of those incompletions were dropped touchdown passes, and he continued to push the ball down the field. In just 2 quarters, he completed 2 50-yard bombs, one to Marvin Mims, who we'll talk about in a minute, and the other to Charleston Rambo. Jalen Hurts completed 6 passes of 50 yards or more all last season, and 5 of them were to CeeDee Lamb, who was drafted in the first round of the NFL draft by my Dallas Cowboys, who apparently suck anyway. When Rattler arrived in Norman, the predominant thought was he'd form a kinship with Trajan Bridges, with Theo Weiss, with Austin Stogner, with Jaden Hazelwood. And that's true. It's going to be the case. It will be the case. But at this time last year, the Sooners didn't know that they were going to add the nation's most prolific high school wide receiver, perhaps ever. In September 2019, Marvin Mims was committed to Stanford. He played his way into 2,629 yards receiving, which is the national single-season receiving record, which is ridiculous. And he broke Jordan Shipley's Texas high school career record for yards, in a career, which is also phenomenal. And then he was back returning punts for Oklahoma in its opener against Missouri State. So only toward the end of his high school career did he reopen his recruitment and eventually commit and sign with Riley. Just 8 months later, his name is being mentioned in the same sentence as Joe Washington. Peep game. With 148 all-purpose yards against the Bears, Mims fell just 9 yards short of Washington's 157 all-purpose yards, which is a record for a freshman in a career debut. Mims finished with 80 yards receiving and a 22.7-yard punt return average. His first catch, of course, was a 58-yard score from Rattler. Now, it's early. It was an FCS team. It was Missouri State. That will be the frequent refrain to all of those folks that are watching Rattler and Mims who saw what they saw against Bobby Petrino's Bears. But you know what you felt if you were a fan, if you were media, and it was excitement for what is ahead for Lincoln Riley's football team. And in 2020, you don't get to take that kind of excitement for granted. And I wanted to stress that as we continue to talk about what this team is capable of and what obstacles lay in the way. Check on the chat right quick, then I want to get to the LSU USC portion of the show. See who's in here, man. Appreciate everybody who's setting their watch to this. It's very important to me. I put a lot of time and effort into it. Live streams are difficult because there's a lot of heavy lifting on the behind the camera aspects to this, and I do it all myself. So thank you so much. Corey Karhoff, member. Appreciate that. Corey Karhoff, Bishop, member. Appreciate that. Let me see. What else we got in here? Rattler got the goods. Also, questions in the comments. Let me know. Questions in the chat are appreciated. Good college football questions. None of this trash. We got trash every now and again. I don't do with trash. I usually have to put somebody in timeout, and I don't really enjoy that aspect of the game here. Let me see. John Schaeffler. Is it Schaffler or Schaeffler? Maybe you can spell it out for me phonetically. Mizzou State was 9th in the MVC. That's the Missouri Valley Conference last year. Can OU play an actual college team before talking smack? See, that's the kind of trash question that I was trying to avoid here today, man. Like, that's what I spent, like, the opening comment just talking about. Answer your own question in there, dog. All right, so LSU has an SEC kind of problem. And by that, I mean, ain't nothing but positives down in the SEC country. And I'm not talking about football. I'm talking about the COVID, okay? Ed Orgeron kind of surprised people when he said, I think most of my football team has contracted COVID-19. To which people are like, oh, hey, wait a second. Do you say most of your football team? He's like, well, I mean, like over the course of the year, yeah. But I don't want to say that everybody got it, but a bunch of them got it. And last week, 4 or 5 of them got it. He made it sound like it ain't that big a deal. And he's trying to take this next man up mentality, which I hate. I understand the rationale behind it, but I also think it treats the kids as if they're not actual human beings who might have some suffering that they're going through. And I just don't like the way that language is tossed about. That said, like, if LSU continues to contract the COVID in the COVID-rich state of Louisiana, I have tremendous questions about what they're going to be capable of. And you know what? There are lots of questions to be answered about this LSU football team. Starting with, can they actually be healthy enough to field a football team? Because with transfers and opt-outs, they're down to about 70 scholarship players, right? You're also asking a new coordinator and a new passing game coordinator